let's get to the story that is rocking.
Please, let's.
Sending ripples through northern Alberta, rocking the Pacific Division. Yesterday, when we heard from Connor McDavid and the Oilers, everything seemed like it was okay. It's a bruise. He's going to be okay. McDavid left practice early. We were told as a precaution, just take some extra time to rest after banging his knee on Saturday night against Nashville. Well, the news got worse today. GM Ken Holland provided this update.
Connor has a quad injury. He's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. We're hoping less than that. Came in Sunday, felt a little bit better, but it was stiff, a little bit swollen. We wanted to see how it reacted yesterday. It was still a little stiff, it was still a little swollen. We booked an MRI, and then 1:30 he had an MRI. And yesterday about 5 o'clock we got the results that he's got a quad injury. Connor's decided to go back to Toronto. He's got his team of people there and his facilities. He's going to do his treatment there while we're on the road trip, and expect to see Connor back here when we get back next Monday. It's a left leg, totally unrelated to the injury that he had this summer.
Is there torn muscles? Is there?
Well, it's a quad injury. I guess I read around the league where lots of teams say lower body injury and upper body injury. So we're trying to give you, it's a quad injury. The pictures, the MRI showed exactly the injury that he's got. No surgery. It's an injury significant enough that he's going to miss games, but it's not long term. We don't think that. Don't expect that. As Ryan asked, that we'll double back a week from now and find out it's more serious. We know what it is, and it's a quad injury. It's gonna heal. It just needs some time for treatment.
All right, I was going to ask you, are the Oilers good enough to withstand McDavid's absence? But I'm going to give you two options.
Ooh.
I'm going to throw a curveball right off the top because I don't know if Ken Holland eased my mind while he was talking about the injury. Did he? The way you're chuckling, you seem to think the same thing. Like the 2 to 3 weeks I was good with until I heard Ken Holland talking, and then I got a little more worried.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to stop talking, right? Because the more you say, the more questions people will have. And sometimes in life you need to keep it real. You need to keep it 100%. Sometimes
keeping it real goes wrong.
It does. And as a friend of ours, David Sanchez, says, sometimes you need to keep it 97.
Okay.
You don't tell the entire truth. Just get close to the truth. You can see the border of the truth, but you never really cross it.
Right.
I think Ken Holland kept it like 93.5.
Yeah.
He didn't even get to 97.
Right.
He tried to use the fact that, we're vague in this sport all the time. We just tell you if it's upper or lower. I'm telling you an actual body part. We're playing doctor over here. And we've seen the pictures. I'm just not going to tell you what actually we saw in the pictures. So don't ask me if it's torn, because I can't really answer that. So I'm going to give you the Shaggy, wasn't me. I'm going to give you the Scooby-Doo, ooh. And I'm going to try and just get out of this press conference without saying anything that you're going to print on a headline. And that's pretty much what he did.
Yeah, not being more specific on whether or not it was torn scares the bleep out of me.
Well, and it's 2, it's 3, it was sore. We gave him some more time. He's going back to Toronto. But guess what? It's not the same injury as the one he had previously.
Totally unrelated was the quote.
Even though it's the same leg. And even though at the time we kind of said, even though it wasn't him saying it at the time, it wasn't a big deal, and it ended up being more of a big deal than it was. Your other question was, does this absence matter? 100% it does. And we will find out on the trade deadline or before then how much they think it's a serious injury, because chances are he's not going to be back before then.
This one is I feel like there's a bit of semantics going on here, and obviously that's what you were saying when you were talking about keeping it 93.5, is that you're giving people enough, but you're not giving them everything. And I keep hearing from Oilers fans panicking and those telling them to shut up. And I get both sides of it, right? Like, if you're a fan of the team, the last thing you want to hear is Connor McDavid is going to miss significant time, because this was a one-line team before Connor McDavid got hurt. They kind of sort of established a second line, but now that second line has to go against first lines, and all of a sudden you've changed the dynamic. I really get it from both sides. I understand why fans are panicking, and I understand why a bunch of the fans of that team are telling the panicking people to stop, to relax, and to listen to the team. But as was said in the File story, and it's worth reminding, I'm going to read directly from the filed story on sportsnet.ca. McDavid spent the entire offseason rehabbing that injury, which included a full PCL tear, plus a torn meniscus on both sides of the knee, a cracked fibia, and I don't even know how to say this, but a poplitis muscle that was torn right off the bone. Is that poplitis?
Correct pronunciation.
I
Say it
never
with
did
your
that.
chest. Say it with your chest. That's correct.
Poplitis.
There you go.
All of which was recently revealed in the documentary Whatever It Takes. Remember, back to the summer or around the time that McDavid was injured, which was last game of the year, it was reported as a small PCL tear. Like, I'm not saying that anyone wasn't completely honest. I'm not saying you can't find more damage as you go along. Even Ken Holland mentioned during that documentary that he really didn't know what happened when he signed on about a month after the injury took place. I am not going to hate on Oilers fans for panicking, given the recent history with this player, given the recent history of this franchise, and given what they've been through since 2006. I am not the guy who gets caught up in the hyperbole, wants to push the panic button all the time, and wants to freak out. But I understand why Oilers fans would be freaking out when they got yesterday, everything's fine, and then with the history on this player, with this franchise, get something more and start freaking out.
Yeah, they should freak out. Listen, here's why they shouldn't freak out. Because whether they know how serious it is or they're not sure, they hope for the best, it's really 2 to 3 weeks. You know what they weren't going to do? They weren't going to be 100% honest. Because this is kind of a trend.
Yeah.
We're going to have the same conversation in Montreal. And in fact, I feel bad that Ken Holland has to talk to us, the media, to give us news about his best player and his injury situation right before trade deadline. Are you going to put all your cards out there? No, you're going to keep them close to your vest. I'm not sure why we say that, because who's wearing vests right now? Neither of us. We don't wear vests. So I'm not sure how we got that saying, but no matter. He's going to keep the cards.
I used to wear vests all the time.
Did you?
Yeah.
By themselves or 3-piece?
No, 3-piece.
Oh, so then you're keeping it close to the suit, not the vest. The suit is on the outside of the
suit and the vest.
We're getting sidetracked. He's not going to tell you the truth of the injury because that hurts his leverage in the trade deadline. And I don't besmirch him for that until we start legally betting on these games. Well, then that's going to change the conversation and how forthright these teams are going to be.
Well, some people are legally betting on these games.
True, but
some people are illegally betting on these games as well.
A lot of people are illegally betting on these games. But if the league wants to make that a huge revenue stream, then they're going to have to reconcile with some transparency. But that's not the conversation for another day, one that you've had plenty. He's not going to be honest right now. The reason why you should be concerned is because look at your schedule, friends. You have 4 games between now and Sunday. Tuesday, Chicago. Thursday, Tampa. Saturday, Florida. Sunday, Carolina. Now, 3 of those 4 teams are not in a playoff position right now, but still a lot of games in a short period of time. If he misses 2 weeks, that's 7 games. If he misses 3 weeks, that's 10 games. How many do they have left? 27?
Yeah.
So the math of having a guy who is by far your most important player not in the lineup when the Pacific is super close, that's why you should panic. Forget about what he said about the injury, because no matter what he said, you would have to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, you have 2 weeks at least with less than 2 months to go, with the best player in hockey on a team fighting for a playoff position in a division that's tighter than Grant Fuhr with a 1-goal lead. Like, of course everyone is going to be worried about this. The one good thing is that you're playing mostly East Division teams for the next little while, and then you get back into the division and back into the West, and that's when those 4-point games happen, right? And that's when it becomes all the more important. But the fact that he headed to Toronto and the fact that they are going to attempt to play without him, and the numbers suggest that he's a pretty damn good player, I'm going to repeat it again. If you want to panic, Edmonton, if you want me to hit the panic button, I can hit the panic button. But I think we need to give them a couple games here, see how they do, and then when the results end up the way I think most people think the results will end up, then you can hit the panic button. I'm good either way.
But can I also say, you shouldn't be if you're an Oilers fan. And obviously you want to see the kid play. He's outstanding. He's the most fun player in the sport. But if I'm an Oilers fan, as much as I want to go after a cup and get back in the playoffs, I want him to be right for the length of the contract for the rest of his career.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
So how about we relax and slow play this?
Well, they didn't relax and slow play the knee over the offseason.
Over the offseason, correct.
And remember the panic when it was suggested that he might not make the opener?
Yes.
Right? Like all of these things play into this, and Edmonton's history plays into it, which is why it scares me the most.